Hello, and welcome to today's conversation about digital transformation and innovation, and a look at the value of data as well. Hi, I'm Bill Wohl, your host, and I've worked in the IT industry for more than 20 years and remain constantly fascinated about the intersection of business and technology. And I'm particularly interested to bring you today's conversation discussing a great new resource, a new book that covers interesting approaches designed to simplify the move to SAP S/4HANA and new innovation possibilities that comes with data as the foundation for business model change. I've spent 11 years of my career at SAP, so I'm particularly excited about today's guests. Joining me today are two veterans of the SAP world and the move to S/4HANA, author Andreas Graesser, a professor of data and information management at Villanova University, and a 21-year veteran of SAP. And also joining us today is Dr. Uwe Grigoleit, who is a senior executive at SAP, globally responsible for the end-to-end go-to-market and solution management of SAP S/4HANA. So we have a lot of expertise on the program today. Both of these executives have spent most of their careers providing guidance and counsel to SAP customers on their business transformation endeavors. So Andreas and Uwe, welcome to the discussion.
Thanks, Bill. Happy to be here.
It's great to be with SAP colleagues and to host both of you today. Andreas, let me start with you. I know you've written other books and guides before. What was the inspiration for this latest project?
I would say, writing this book is really about, explaining to executives, what and how important data transformation is. So obviously, it's always a thing to write a book, but the main purpose was really to get the value across to the business leaders. Since very often technology is a little bit not ignored but sidelined maybe. So from that point, it's very important to help them also to better understand the technology behind. So that was the main driver from writing the book.
So I had a chance to read the book, and one of the things I really like about it, to the point, is that this is direct and short. Business leaders don't have a lot of time. And so what you've captured is a pretty important topic in just under 50 pages. In fact, I think in your own introduction to the book, you really describe it more as a booklet than a book. You really start with the topic of data and business transformation and say the focus is all around winning. Tell me what you mean by that.
Yeah, I guess I put in the center of this chapter, a quote from, basically it's not a quote from Thomas Pfeiler, the founder of JiVS, basically, or the father of JiVS. But, he always used divide et impera. That's Latin phrase. And obviously he uses it. And also it goes back in his life where, focus is everything. And sometimes you have to think, let go in order to win at the end.
Mm-hmm.
So from that point, I really wanted to write about, of course, those kind of, not business transformation is a very high level word, maybe a little bit abstract. So I wanted to make it more touchable in the book, and also describe then accelerators, how to make business transformation happen.
Having worked in the SAP world, I'm familiar with continuing conversations about moving from solution level to solution level. A lot of companies are doing very well with their SAP installations. They've used them to define business processes and to really advance their business forward. They want to get the most business value out of their solutions. So what makes the move to SAP HANA so important? You talked about access to new digital capabilities. Why are companies really making this journey?
So in my view, and maybe Uwe can really chime in here because he's even more the expert, but in my view, it's really the real-time capabilities that obviously S/4HANA provides to customers. And obviously the move from, let's say, an older ERP system to a newer, let's say, backbone. It's also important to make your business ready in terms of digitalization or digitization, basically. Mm-hmm. So from that point, it's very important that companies they are on on the latest backbone as possible.
So Uwe, let me bring you into this conversation. I can remember working closely with my old boss, Dr. Plattner. He talked about real time the whole time I was at SAP in the early 2000s. Real time's not a new concept, but with the aspects of machine learning and artificial intelligence, it takes on a whole new meaning now, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, you name it, real time, and R1, R2, R3, the R in these solutions basically was meant already for real time, right? But coming and linking that also to the topic of data. I mean, the idea with S4HANA is really we would like to get to data-driven processes, and real time, of course, that processes are happening real time. You're posting a transaction, it is there. That is of course something everybody would expect from an ERP system, and basically our old ERP system was doing for decades already, and this is why customers are also fundamentally happy with it. But what we are doing with S4, we are using now data differently, data to really do processes differently and do processes better. And this is another level of real time, because what we are bringing into the process in real time is, for instance, all the history out of the system to make a process intelligent, to have machine learning, artificial intelligence, now taking over decisions for the end users or helping the end users with decisions based on the data that is in the system. And that is exactly the new element that is coming into S4HANA with into the ERP processes with S4HANA. And that is why also data is so important, right? We think that customers have collected in their ERP systems over the past decades tons, petabytes, terabytes of data, but they're not using it really to make their business better and to improve the way how they're running processes. And that is exactly what we are doing with S4. We are bringing this data into the actual business context. We're also connecting the data, right? So if I'm now working on a supplier, why not have all information available around the supplier, internal, external information, right at one spot, right? And also in real time, right? Not asking a report here and waiting here and there, but really having it all in real time available where I need it in my transaction. Because then we are convinced the end users working with the system, they will be more efficient because they have all information they need right at their fingertips. And secondly, they will take the better decisions for their business and for their end customers they are serving. And that is really the fundamental difference.
Yeah, and I think that that's an outstanding point, because a lot of people who think about data want to get the insights that is buried in all of this historical data. So Uwe, that's an excellent point. Andreas, let's go back to the book for a second. You certainly talk a lot in the book about the concept of creating a data fabric, a kind of way to describe the data layer. Given Uwe's comments on bringing all that data together, describe for our audience today what you mean by data fabric.
Yeah, very often when I see, companies, they grew over the years, so they acquired other companies. So in fact, they are, obviously they are not only more companies under one umbrella, but they have also many more IT systems in the background, because, when they acquire a company, everything has to go fast. So from that point, it's a side effect that you have then very many basically data bases, so to speak, somewhere in the enterprise. So data fabric is basically a concept that bridges and creates a layer above those kind of different databases to create more or less a one view on all the data. So from that point, it's of course important that, when customers migrate from an older ERP to S4HANA, that they use all the data, as Uwe said, the historical data, but they should also consider, the other data sources inside the company. So maybe it would even make sense to not migrate everything into S4HANA, but to establish a kind of a data layer above. And this is what I explained in the book as data fabric.
I think that's an important concept, Uwe. As customers think about their migration, journey to HANA, why wouldn't they want to bring all the data across? What's at the crux of that discussion? Is the concept of the size and mass of storage? You don't want to load the system up. Talk a little bit about that decision.
Yeah, no, that's actually a very good point. I mean, if I'm bringing all my data, then of course one topic is I'm loading a lot of data physically already into the new system. Even so, I would have to say, especially with moving to the cloud with elasticity, that's not the hugest problem anymore today. But the topic is, if I'm loading all the old data into the system, I'm also loading all my so to say, my bad history into the system as well. I'm also getting in my legacy, and I'm then having to carry my legacy all the time with me, right? And we think that the move to S/4HANA should be connected to a transformation of the customer, because also a business transformation, because with that they can really get the benefit out of it. And the idea here is that you can really start, so to say, with an empty system or nearly empty system, based on your new transformed processes, but with the data layer, with the data fabric, and then also the historization of the data that you're having then the retention warehouse. The intelligence of the old data is still not lost. But for that, I don't have to carry it over with all the bad elements around it into my system, right? So this is really the idea. Not having to carry over data is giving me freedom to design my new processes in the way how they should be, and not in the way how they have been in the past.
And I imagine this would be particularly important for, as Andreas describes, a company that has been assembled from a number of integrations or mergers where that data was on different systems than SAP. So this raises the concept of labels we hear a lot in this topic, greenfield or brownfield. Andreas, you touch a little bit of this on the book. For our audience that may not be familiar with those terms, can you describe the difference?
Yeah, basically greenfield is a concept where we say, okay, we create a new system, a target system, without any data in it, basically. So we design everything from scratch. We design business processes from scratch. So this is usually when companies that have time and money, so to speak, they can afford it. You know, many companies, they need to, like mergers and acquisitions, if they think, okay, I want to do a business transformation with my backbone system, I mean, this has to go fast. So from that point, greenfield is maybe an option where you really do, you can create the best solution, but sometimes best is not best for a specific situation. So this is where brownfield comes in the game, you know. So obviously brownfield is, I would say the opposite, but it's a little bit tricky in terms of color coding. But, you know, brownfield is basically a situation where you just take everything what you have and you move it into the new system. Mm-hmm. So in other words, this is, you know, in former years, we called it a kind of a technical upgrade, basically. So we don't touch any business processes. We do not improve any things that we know it's not going well. So we just take more or less the old system and put it on a new technology, but from a functionality, it's the same.
Yeah, and then the goal, of course, is to get the insight of all this data that's coming together. You're not thinking about it as a business process reinvention. It's much more about getting the benefits of the new technology and the insights of the historical data, if I understand you correctly.
Exactly. This is where also then one click comes in the game. Yeah. So obviously one click helps really to, you know, to design the best business processes, or optimize business processes, evaluate business processes in the target system, but then pull all the data over and load it into the system. So it's neither a greenfield, because, you know, we are not starting totally from scratch. It's also not a brownfield, because it's not just a technical upgrade. So basically, it's a more or less a perfect solution to load more or less data from all sources that you need into the target system and make it, you know, as business relevant as possible.
So the title of this new book is One Click Transformation. For all of us that have been in the SAP arena for years, we know we would like to think and talk about upgrades being simple. They're never as simple as one click. That seems to be a bit aggressive. But Uwe, as you listen to customers talk about this journey, if they can make the data transformation relatively smooth, then the rest of moving to HANA is a relatively straightforward process, right?
It is at least taking away one central element, right? Because as I said, I mean, the data collected over decades, over years in the ERP system is, of course, a very valuable asset for our customers, and this is why when they are now moving over to S4, they also would like to consciously decide what to do on that, right? And I mean, we have been talking now a lot about transactional data that is being taken over, but of course, I mean, the same is then about the master data, right? Which is in many cases even the larger problem or challenge even for the customers, right? So this is why once these two elements are solved, then of course you still have to do also the business transformation part and the process part of the picture. But this is taking away already a very fundamental basis of your business and then also the IT transformation that is following it. And this is why, yes, the whole transformation will not be one click. That would be too ideal and too nice to be true. But we can take away some fundamental starting elements already into a one click, and that is fundamentally accelerating the transformation that is building on top of that.
As you listen, Uwe, to customers, I know anytime we talk about an SAP transformation, and certainly in the business environment we've been the last couple of years influenced by the pandemic and global challenges, the availability of those that assist companies making this move, SAP consultants with a unique specialty around the move to HANA and data. Is that a challenge for customers? Obviously, books like this and partners are important. How are customers feeling about the access to experts to help them make this journey?
Yeah, I mean, that is definitely a huge challenge we are seeing worldwide at the moment, right? So that, of course, I mean, thousands of customers, luckily, we have to say, have started and are on the journey now to S4, are on this business transformation journey that is coming with it. And that, of course, also means that people to help the customers with that journey are getting short, right? And so that is definitely a challenge we are seeing in the whole market. And this is why also I think books like this one and also tools like JiVS are important elements to support our customers, right? Because the more we can start to automate steps in the transformation, the more we can also, and this is what we as SAP are also looking at, bring, for instance, machine learning into some of these transformational elements already. The more we can, of course, reduce the manual work that needs to be done in the whole transformation, and with that overcome, at least to some extent, the challenge in the resources that we are having, right? So this is why both elements are so important here.
I want to come back to that in just a second. Andreas, when you thought about writing the book, I know that some of your inspiration came from talking to customers who were looking for ways to simplify these transformation journeys. I know data is such a priority for businesses. Do you feel like in writing the book, you have a sense that the book provides a framework for customers to take on a lot of this effort to create a data strategy, a path to HANA for their data on their own? And how confident do you feel about customers' ability to work with tools like One Click to actually manage this aspect of the transformation in-house?
Yeah, I think I feel very confident, so from that point, I wanted to write a book that is not a sales pitch. So very often when I hop on WebEx sessions or Zoom sessions, so people or salespeople, they are the main speakers, and they try, of course, they paint rosy pictures of how easy and whatever it is, but they are not explaining more or less, the parts behind. So I wanted to write a book, that goes beyond and explains on the one hand side, okay, this is the concept, those are the methodologies, and this is how you would use it to develop a strategy. Since this, at the end, nobody can take this, nobody can bring this from the outside. You know, anybody who is in the transformation, charged with a transformation project, I mean, he or she needs to develop their own vision, basically. So the book would help to widen more or less the mindset and bring in some food for thought to develop an own strategy. So this is basically goes way beyond any sales pitch, I would say.
When I read the book, my impression, Andreas, is that the ideal audiences for this book really are at the business level. This is helping business deciders understand what this journey is all about and how important the data component of the project really is. This is not, and you certainly couldn't do it in 49 pages. This is not a technical guide to moving to HANA. It's not even a technical guide, hands-on keyboards to moving data. It's really around the framework and philosophy of making this journey from a data perspective. Who are the recommended readers of a book like this? What kind of roles are they in?
Yeah, that's spot on. So basically, this is, you know, my book number 4, I guess. But I was always focusing to have the business leaders in mind and not the techies. So all my books are really about, you know, focusing for business leaders, for transformation leaders, for even for CEOs, you know, at least in smaller companies, to better understand, okay, what are my guys talking about? I mean, it's also to widen, you know, the knowledge of everybody, you know, CIOs, even CFOs, you know, if they see, okay, that's a huge business case, where does it come from? I mean, the book explains it, at least on a high level, that you can save money with it. So,
Uwe, you've been working as long as I've been involved with SAP. You've been working in an organization that the world would generally know as service and support, talking to customers. The move to an SAP system, the move from SAP system to SAP system, has always been focused on not just a change of technology for technology's sake, but really about business transformation. There has to be a business output or a benefit aligned with it. To Andreas's point, when you look at this book and think about the kinds of readers, this is really about making sure everyone understands the importance of managing data, but more importantly, what that means to ongoing business value. Is that the right way to think about it?
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, we definitely see, I mean, when we are looking at the projects that are taking place, customers moving from their old ERP system to S4, then we are definitely seeing, of course, those projects that are successful projects, also successful projects on the longer term that are really making a great business case out of it, are projects where, so to say, the business and the IT are really in lockstep right from the beginning and are driving the way how the future systems should look like jointly. We're also then with the business before starting the transformation, something like Art of the Possible workshops have been done to really understand what is it really that now with this step technically that I'm doing, I can do different on my business process. I can do different operationally in my business to really also reach as a business another level of maturity and maybe also another level of service to my end customers, right? So this is why this close interlock between the business and the IT is really also one of the key success factors that we are seeing in all of the projects going on there.
Yeah, if I go all the way back to the beginning of my SAP career, back with when Andreas and I both joined the company in 1999, I think it's ancient history at this point. But the concept then about customers not being on their own is still the same today. We talked a little bit about consultants. Obviously, partners play a role. So, Uwe, I want to ask you about partners. Can you frame for our audience a little bit on the HANA journey? A lot of companies have already made this move. They're well on their journey. Where are we on that roadmap? If we think about companies that have yet to start a HANA transition or those that are already in, sort of where are we in that map?
Yeah. No, great question. I mean, we started this whole S4 journey back in 2015, right? And at that point in time, we were looking into roughly 34,000 ERP customers, right? And when we are looking at S4HANA today, we are having a little bit more than 20,000 customers on it, right? That are partially active already, then using it, partially then they're in the transformation project, in the active project now. So we have we are looking really into basically 7 years, good 7 years of a great transformational success here. And we definitely see that there's really a huge uptake of our installed base customer, obviously, of course, of every new customer moving to S4HANA. But we are really seeing also a very nice uptake in our installed base moving to S4HANA. Of course, for some of these customers are now starting with one system, moving it into the new environment, right? And especially when we are looking at our larger customers running 20, 80, 100 ERP systems today. I mean, it's still quite of a journey to get all of them over into the new environment. Also, of course, starting to simplify and consolidate the systems on the journey on the way down there. But when we are looking at being at 20,000 customers, I think it's a great success story we can look at.
I know I can say with a lot of assuranceness, we've always understood that some customers are sort of at the bleeding edge of technology. They have the resources, they have the vision, they have the people and the talent to do that. We always see customers that are sort of in the middle, they're fast followers, and there will always be customers for all sorts of reasons that are laggards. They don't have the resources, they're tied up in other business activities, so that's pretty natural. But we do know over the course of that time, they never do this on their own. They have to assemble a team of experts around them, and particularly partners. The partner ecosystem has always been a major focus of SAP's business. It is for all technology companies. There are a critical role for partners like JiVS, who set up today's discussion. Can you talk, Uwe, just a little bit for our audience about the role of partners like JiVS and how customers should think about putting the right team around them to make this journey?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, and as you rightfully said, I mean, if I'm looking at our customers, the vast majority of our customers is doing the project with the partner, with one of our classical implementation partners, but is also then using tools around our S4HANA product and also our products that we are delivering around it already. Is using tools and also other products around it that are helping in that transformation. I mean, JiVS is one example here, and this is so important because we as SAP, I mean, even so we have a great set of developers and a great development force. I mean, we will never be able to really develop all things inside our solutions, and not, of course, all of the tools around our solutions that are helping our customers in the transformation in their specific business, right? And this is why we from SAP, we have always been very interested and open to encourage partners to really develop their solutions on top of our framework. And of course, with JiVS, we have a great example of a partner doing this, addressing one central topic with the tool, the data management, the handling of also historical data, as we discussed, right? But it has always been and will even be more in the future a very fundamental asset of SAP that the full solution and the full benefit out of the solution you're getting in a combination of the solution that we are delivering plus partner solutions on top, and then also partner services that you're consuming on top.
That's great. And Andreas, of course, having good resources and guides like the books you've written are an important part of that. As we start to wrap up our discussion today, we'll talk a little bit about the journey to HANA and the topics discussed in the book. Andreas, let me start with you. Your focus on data is now really the focus of your career. It's what you teach at Villanova University. What's your best advice to customers as they consider their data transformation and their journey for HANA, besides reading the book?
Besides, yeah, that's a good point. I mean, sometimes customers, they need a little bit, influence from the outside, Of course, usually they discuss, the ins and outs, the plans, the goals, whatsoever. But sometimes it's helpful to have somebody from the outside giving them some food for thought. I mean, it's not that they have to take any advice from the outside as given, but it would help to drive more or less the focus forward. And this is basically what I also want to do going forward. So maybe I write another book, but I guess my motivation is much more to help customers in terms of, in a kind of a consulting engagement to develop together with them a compelling strategy, how to move forward.
That makes sense. Uwe, you've spent your career advising customers on their SAP projects. We know from experience that even within a particular industry, companies are very different from each other because of the people that run them and their philosophies on business. SAP has always been that sort of foundational system that brings industry best practices, but every project then is different. So as you think about customers making this journey to HANA, besides great books, and there are plenty of them in this space, including Andreas's new one, what's your best advice for customers that are thinking about their data strategy as they are on the road to HANA?
Yeah. I mean, my advice to customers is always start to think out of the box, right? Because, a business transformation, also a system transformation, like our customers are doing now with the move from their old ECC system to S4, this is something you will maybe do once in a decade, most likely, right? So, and this is why it is really very important to use this time to really think about, okay, what can I really do differently and better than I've been doing it before? Where can I change a process to really get with that a little bit ahead of my competition? And that, of course, only is possible if you're thinking about the box, if you're forgetting a little bit about the history, the way how you've done it maybe the last 10 years. And this is always my advice for the customers, because it's a unique opportunity, and an opportunity that most likely will only come back again in the next 10 years when you're doing the next larger ERP transformation, most likely.
It's good advice. Andreas, as we wrap up, one last question. You talk about this being as simple as one click. The subheadline of your book is about simplifying. There's never anything really simple about SAP, but it is possible to make it easier, particularly on the data journey. That's really the bottom line of your book, right?
Yeah, it is. Of course, it would be far-fetched, to say, okay, one click and I push the button and then everything is gone. But the point here is, at one point I push the button and it's working. There is some work before. So obviously the tool really helps. So JiVS really helps, or one click helps to create more or less the data foundation that I need. So the preparation is still some work, but it's much, much easier. And the real data transformation is really a one click.
Well, thank you for that. For those of you that are listening today and pre-registered for this session, your registration included an ebook version of Andreas Graesser's new book, the JiVS One Click Transformation, Simplifying the Move to SAP S/4HANA. For those of you that might be listening to a recording of today's session, this informative book is available at all the usual places like Amazon. So I encourage you to get a copy and put this good advice to work. Dr. Uwe Grigoleit, great to talk with you again. And thanks to you and all of the SA team for being a great part of this discussion today.
Yeah.
Thank you. Happy to.
Thank you.
And Andreas, this is book number 3 or number 4. You're an SAP veteran, a Villanova University professor, and again, now a book author. Congratulations and best of luck for the book. I think Uwe said there's another 14,000 customers to make this journey. If they all bought the book, you'd be doing really well.
Very good. Thanks for having us.
Great to have you both on the program. And thanks to all of you for joining today's program. And thanks to the team at JiVS for making this discussion possible. You can get more information at JiVS.com, JiVS.com. I'm your host, Bill Wohl. For all of us on the digital transformation journey, I hope today's conversation was useful. You can engage with Andreas, with Uwe, and with me at the usual social media sites like Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and Zing, and of course, LinkedIn. So join in that conversation. To each of you and to my colleagues and friends in the SAP world, thanks for joining. Wish you a good day and look forward to talking with you again soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.